The Wyoming County Commission Committee on Ways and Means budget hearing will now reconvene.
Commissioner Scott,
Present.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Here.
Commissioner Marecki,
Here.
Commissioner Clementi,
Here.
Commissioner Anderson,
Present.
Vice Chair Bayjun,
Here.
Chair Kinlock.
Present.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda.
Item D, discussion and presentation by the Indigent Defense Services Department.
As you are being situated, please state your name and or, in the title.
Yeah.
Please say you all are someone are individuals who are absolutely familiar with this commission. We're so honored to have you here today because you're not only one of our newest departments, but you're one of our departments that's so important to our resident. If you have long history, director and team with protecting the rights of citizens, and I'm just glad that you all are in place. So with that, we have in front of us, the proposed budget that has been submitted by the CPO relative to your department. Looking at that budget, do you have any questions? If you speak to any strengths or weaknesses that might come from what we proposed?
Yes, thanks so much. So with our budget.
Into the mic.
Sorry.
You can take it off. You can take it off if you like.
As you're aware, we. You're last year. We needed to standard 8. Standard 8, MIDC standard 8 deals with term compensation. And that was recently passed by Michigan Department of Regulatory Affairs in October of 2022. So we're sitting on standards and determining we got approximately a 14 million increase for that particular standard. That standard focuses on hourly wage for attorneys versus the flat fee compensation that is working. So that hourly rate, as we look at it, is based on the number of hours it would take a particular attorney to handle, say, a tier 1 case, which is manslaughter, and then we assign a wage to that based on state standards, and the state standards came from looking at the attorney general's office. We turn at about $192 an hour would be appropriate for those types of cases. And then tier 2, similarly, we did the same analysis as well as tier 3 and tier 4. And if you recall, the tiers are simply based on severity of the cases. So tier 4 being lower felonies, tier 1 being the highest felonies. So with that being said, Commissioner Kinlock, our budget overall operations didn't really take a significant increase. The biggest increase was the postings.
So, looking at the responses from our commission staff, all across the county, we are seeing various challenges in filling vacancies. I see you have 9 vacancies. Is that are those vacancies causing any sort of deficiencies within your operations? And tied to that, what what collective bargaining units are associated with with employees in your department?
Sure. So with the 9 vacancies, if I may just add, prior to us becoming the department, when we were originally housed in the corporation council, once MIDC grant funding started coming into the county, we started an analysis of what personnel we would need to carry out indigent defense positions. A lot of those positions were carryover from positions that we thought we might have needed in one particular year. Every year we have to go to the state and explain to them they need to perform indigent defense operations. So some of the positions have remained vacant because there hasn't been a necessary a need, if you will, to fill it at that time. So we sort of leave it open so that if we have a change in the middle of the fiscal year, we do have a position number that we can go back to the state and say, hey, we need to fill this particular need. The state would approve it, we would then go to the county side and say, hey, we need to now move forward with this position. So for fiscal 24, we've identified a few positions that are necessary to carry out operations, and I think we listed them in that document as well. But it really is just based on the need. When it comes to talent recruitment and attraction, we are doing pretty well because we're looking at specific types of positions. So for instance, we're in the process of hiring an IT person to help us with our case management system. Well, we received a lot of resumes because of that sort of specific need. When it comes to things like our fiscal grant team, we're going to be hiring a fiscal grant clerk because we're absorbing functions from the court that have historically been housed in the court related to payment of attorneys. So we have to just analyze it based on need. But we have position numbers available for our department, so that when it's time for us to sort of fill those positions, we don't have to go through a lot of internal struggle to do so.
Thank you. At this time, I will now ask any commissioner, do you have any questions?
Yes, I just wanted to ask you, you feel, and I know I'll be asking this, but that their services have in any way sped up, slowed down cases being processed in the court. Do you have any complaints? Do you have a deal?
Mr. Anderson, not really. I mean, we are, we're aware of many things. There was all the cases. From our perspective as many attorneys, there hasn't really been an issue. There's not cases. So from that perspective, we see those. When it comes to complaints, do you mean against attorneys or do you mean case wise?
But I think it's based on assessing the COVID and Wellington Sound court-wide. A lot of that is quarters and wage. So trying to see if we're being able to moving smoother. I know there's still shortages. So you've not received any complaints about failure of your department?
No, not in that fashion. To be quite fair, the court backlog is across Michigan. Given COVID.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Brecki, and then Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the state determined that these hourly wages are. And so it went up 14 million. The state determined that the county had 14 million.
No. Oh, it started with the state examining attorney compensation across the board. And then they set minimums. So they took the Attorney General's office sort of as a benchmark for what an appropriate should be for an attorney working in criminal defense or putting in X amount of dollars in a particular type of case. From there, each county or funding unit was able to sort of set their own rate based upon, maybe a rural area might say there's a little bit different because of lack of attorneys, right? Here in Southeast Michigan, we want to be consistent across counties because we know that attorneys, when they take cases in multiple counties, so we don't want to outprice ourselves or undervalue the attorneys that accept cases. So the dollar figure came from an analysis of tri-county area, the AG minimum, the state sort of minimum, and then we worked with the MIDC to determine what would be an appropriate rate for Wayne County. So that's what we arrived at.
And you don't get any state money.
Yes, that's the 14 million is part of that state grant.
Oh,
So the county only put it in their local share, and that's actually,
Okay,
it's about that 7.
okay, okay, all right, this is like a refresher
Yeah.
when you guys first started.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question was kind of the same, as Mr. Reggie, except for 192, is that across the board? Could you talk about tiers?
Yes.
And just to clarify, as the tier progresses, or is there different amounts for, and I don't know if I saw that in here in this package.
It is in there.
Or compensation. If it's-
It is, Commissioner Pratt, I gave you on page 200 of data.
Okay.
Tier 1 and tier 2 are the same, so 192 is the hours put into the case that you do. So for a tier 1 murder, 90 hours, that would be sort of minimum for that case. Or tier 2 case, which are
So just to clarify,
Yes.
so for the 90 hours, they would only go up to the 192 for 90 hours, then it would increase, or is it?
So the 90 hours is sort of like a minimum. So it's, and if I could, I'll just take a little bit clearer. Believe we have talked about a little bit about the brand study, the Sixth Amendment Center report has written an analysis way about MIDC. Was commissioned by MIDC to look at indigent defense in Wayne County and determine that the defenders are under right? So as we move through this analysis with standard 8, we looked at that study, which gave some sort of insight, if you will, on how many hours a case should take, right? It was a survey that was completed within there, there's a compilation of that figure on how long it should take an attorney to work on the case. So we looked at that number, and then looked at the hourly rate applied, and that's how it came to our analysis. So it does go down, Commissioner McCormick, for a tier 2, it's about 40 hours at a minimum. But always, if an attorney is going over those hours, we would just take a look at that as the department to see if that was justified as additional work. But we had to set some sort of minimums, if you will, in order to get them.
Which was, I know that was an issue compensation,
Correct.
and giving quality attorneys and so on. So I'm glad to see that, and with that being said, the quality of attorneys, would you say now you're where you want it to, right now?
We always do more, because when it comes to the credit system. So we would love to grow the roster to be. But I will say that yes, the quality of representation certainly has due, a large part to the standards. Our training has increased, which attorneys now have that available to them. Our resources have increased. Our investigators and expert is being utilized. So it's the additional resources that make this entire sort of representation mode work. So, right, we have seen taking really.
And I see that the vacancy in the help desk calls, so if there is a individual that is seeking help, is there a number that they can call to seek assistance, or is it all online where you register, or how does that work?
So right now, the our department is more of the administrative back end office. So we don't receive direct citizen to our department. Typically happens if our person is assigned counsel, it's So you arrested, you know, we go for an arraignment, at the time you request. So they will be assigned actually at that stage of proceedings. That's not something they call us for. It naturally has a request. Now, the vendor, our neighborhood defender service, like Troy office, has a community intake program. So if somebody was arrested and a family was, hey, I want representation immediately, they could call them as the nonprofit vendor, but there's no direct line to our department because we just don't get assigned.
Right.
Yes.
So the neighborhood defender services. But you work directly.
When we oversee their contracts, they're a public vendor, vendor for the county. We manage their contract and so we bring that contract for you for approval every year. We, get their funding from the state for this operations. They are under our umbrella.
So the call center is call desk is not related to the.
So that particular position is related to our case management system that we're currently on. So at some point, we're going to need somebody that assists attorneys who has to interface with our systems with password reset and different things like that. So that's specific to this part.
Is there a number for the neighborhood?
There is, yes. There's a separate everything, separate website, separate phone number, they maintain all of that.
Because we were looking for a phone number we had. I don't know, for some reason we didn't have. You're right, but we could talk about it. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner, Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sandy, was your department employee basis for rebound?
No, not yet, Commissioner. And I did note that in here. So there is pending legislation in the House to bring juvenile delinquency under the Michigan Defense Act. We are not there yet, and we actually just recently attended the MIDC meeting on August 16th, where they are really thinking that will come in the next couple of years. Part of that responsibility though requires a huge upheaval in the MIDC staff, MIDC commissioners who specialize in juvenile delinquency, because that is a specialized area. So they being MIDC and their staff are gearing themselves up for that sort of absorption, if you will, by increasing staff and bringing on experts. So once that piece is done, I think at the state level, well, really once the legislation passes, then they, build the MIDC up to meet those needs. They'll create standards for juvenile delinquency defense, and then they'll filter down to the funding.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions from committee members? Any additional questions? Okay, I want to thank you all for the great work that you're doing, and I look forward to hearing from you. And for coming to this time. Thank you.
Item E, discussion presentation by the circuit court.
Good afternoon, Madam Chief Judge, and you and your court has absolutely over the past year, or at least the past few years, been in touch with us about various issues associated with the court operation. And I spoke with you prior to this meeting as it relates to this budget here. And I'm going to ask you here today as it relates to this proposed budget for the next fiscal year. Based on what's being recommended, what's your opinion as it relates to any strengths or any weaknesses that it may cause for your operations, and then also highlight some of the significant changes or programming or actions within your courts that we should be made aware of.
Thank you
so much, Commissioner Kinloch. First of all, before I begin, I do want to introduce two people you're not familiar with and please recognize some of the people who are with me today. I want to thank all of you, the commissioners, for being so supportive of us, the court at this difficult time, post-COVID, and your support has been crucial to us. But I am here and very proud of the fact that the County Circuit Court has demonstrated for you and for our community integrity and fiscal responsibility through our team here represented. So I would like to recognize Lynn Roberts, first of all, who is our star as CFO, Toby Horner, her deputy, Frank Hardister, our court administrator, and Margaret Flanagan, our general counsel. They are here with me today and ready to answer any of your questions. But as far as the presentation and what you're interested in, Commissioner Kinloch, again, it was very important to us that this commission and all of you here supported us in our last contract. Our contract from October 22nd through September of 26 is a recognition of the court, not as a branch of government, with budgetary independence in appropriation, and that was very important to us. And you know, Wayne County is the largest and by far the busiest court in our state, and we handle over 4 times the work of the next largest county in all areas. And in addition, 85% of all auto negligence cases in the state, while still struggling with underfunding compared to other courts and inability to compete with benefits to employees that other counties can give, and the accompanying issues that are affecting our workforce. So, for example, we just heard from the indigent defense, and we are very supportive of having attorneys compensated, especially indigent defense attorneys. That's an important thing. Prosecutors, that's an important thing. But unfortunately, although the state has recognized the need to have comparable pay for attorneys in Wayne County, the state has been working towards, but never affected, one state, one court, and the funding to Wayne County that other more prosperous counties have. And that has been a struggle for us. Our court, again, was hardest hit by COVID and post-COVID challenges, and including devastating backlog of criminal cases reaching over 3,500 due to mandatory stop and jury trials for over a year and a half. Criminal backlog has been reduced this year by 65% reduction to date, and it was estimated to take 4 years to reduce this backlog. We did that through hard work, team effort, and dedication, and with your support. We did attain from the State Court Administrator's Office a backlog grant of approximately $2.8 million, which we have worked diligently to spend well. What we have done with that money is we hired a contract coordinator so that the data is we hired physically judges. We have last year when our jury trials were limited by the availability of jurors, we still conducted 77 criminal jury trials, which is by far multiple times what other counties did. But this year, in our very first quarter, our criminal court trial docket with only 21 courts working conducted 107 jury trials in the first quarter alone. So that is a demonstration of all hands on deck, cooperation from the court teams, and a dedicated team led by Alyssa Shannon, a deputy court administrator there, and Don Knapp, our presiding judge. So one of our challenges there is that to make best use of that grant, we need to have the prosecutor's office, the sheriff's department support those courts. And at this time, we have had a shortage of sheriff's deputies, shortage of prosecutors, and, again, and clerks for the criminal courts. And beyond the criminal courts, we're looking at, working and partnering. You know, our mission statement for the year has been to join forces to serve better together. In conjunction with that, the county executive and the mayor had started the Dangerous Crimes Task Force in January. And we are participants and very grateful for the ability to partner in that way. In that way, we have been able to talk to them about the shortage of deputies, about the lead problems that we've had in the court, and about enforcement of additional pretrial services and other support for better handling of dangerous crimes in Lane County and better support for the community. So in addition to that, we're looking at issues of families and children, ensuring proper treatment and service to the children in our system, and increasing child support money and looking at the raise the age issues that how we are courts affected by all of that. So what some of the challenges in that are workforce. And one great example is our friend of the court. We're looking at friend of the court that is working at about half capacity. And a lot of the workforce issues involve entry-level positions. And post-COVID, we're up against issues in entry-level positions. But we have to acknowledge the fact that Target and other entities are looking at post-COVID and trying to get in entry-level position people and are able to pay actually more money and better benefits than the court is able to. And we are working hard. Our court administrator has acted in an effect that this year we have actually, we have increased our workforce by about 50 people, which is enormous given the challenges that we've had. So in the past few years, for instance, we've had consistently more people retire than we've been able to add. And this year, the shortage has been affected by the fact that the court administration, our human resources department are working hard to, for instance, put out the message that although we may not always be able to pay more, our court is an excellent place to work because we are of service to our community. It's a job that you'd be very proud to have. And also we have the ability to move people up through the ranks, which we have consistently and historically done. Jury services, our court administrator can speak on that, but that is something that we're looking to automate through text messaging, e-portal automation. We are concerned about jury pay through, we were paying jurors, for instance, $40 a day. During COVID, we had access to the additional $10 per day in a lunch. That was cut off last December. Our court has been burdened with paying the extra $10 until we can find a way to pay because we believe that jurors coming into Wayne County, for instance, as opposed to Oakland County, where they're getting free parking and easier access. We wish to keep up that extra $10 for our jurors. Our jurors, we want to respect them and their time, and they've been very cooperative with us. So those are some of the issues we are concerned about, but again, we're very appreciative to be able to join forces with you and answer any questions you might have of us today.
Thank you. Thank you. My question to you is, so my question to you is, I had beginning having a conversation with the previous chief judge, Jessica McCain, along with yourself, in regards to the one state, one court agreement. And so just trying to find out the status of that action that this commission took along with the courts. Has there been any progress associated with that? And then I have some questions regarding the whole jury, you know, the issues and concerns that you just raised as it relates to jurors.
Thank you. So voice has been probably shared by the Supreme Court and the State Court Administrator's Office with regard to that. And the action seems slower than we'd like. And we are waiting because there's been some movement in other directions on one court, one state, but certainly not in the direction of having Wayne County get the funding it deserves.
So, you know, one family, one court. Yeah.
Oh, one family,
One court, I'm sorry, one family.
Yeah,
one court.
one family, one court. Our progress has been impeded by the fact that we're in four buildings, right? It's extremely difficult to serve one family, one court in 4 different buildings, again, with a shortage of workforce, especially in front of the court. However, we have made great strides. We are having regular meetings with both sections of the family division, both the juvenile and the domestic. And we are working together to try to have a plan where at least the families who have an issue can be transferred to the first court that they went to, whether it be the domestic or the juvenile, and then that judge can handle both issues so that it's more convenient to the families and parties. And it brings to mind the fact of technology and remote work and resources. All of those issues that involve families seem to involve the difficulty of being able to have access to justice. And our court finds it very important that we both use technology to save money and improve efficiencies, but we also see ourselves as servants of the people, and we need to be there in our courts, in our court buildings to serve. And that's been an issue that as chief judge, all of the, for instance, fee waivers come into my office. And so I see the people who are trying to access the courts personally through phone calls and through walking in and don't feel always satisfied. So we need increased security to do that. But as far as one family, one court, the support budget-wise, as well as the ability to bring those sections into one building would be much needed in order to complete the project.
Okay, I'm going, like I mentioned, I'm gonna keep that, that's for me gonna be a priority. As I mentioned to the previous chief judge, so I'm going to follow up with you after that, because I think last conversation was a conversation about another building. So
Yes.
that's something I want to make sure it does not fall through the cracks again. If there's years that relate to that. For our fellow commissioners, the reduction as far as support associated with jury, the work of the jurors, as far as the additional compensation, the $10 compensation, and the elimination, I guess, the concern is really the funding for 3 lines of 3 lines of additional funding and launches. Is that a conversation that you've been having with the state? Where are you looking to identify a permanent source of funding to assist with compensation for jurors?
Hi, Lynn Rivers, Chief of the First Circuit Court. The board has been looking at a variety of ways to continue or to increase your compensation permanently. One such is, looking at the grants that we have and exploring whether or not they would be in a position to extend that opportunity. Now, the challenge with the grants sometimes is it may be a 1 year, 2 year. It's not a structural fix. We have been in discussions with the county management and budget on trying to identify, a permanent solution. We're still in discussions regarding that.
Can I put a pin on that? Because this will be are you having discussions as it relates to additional funding from the county?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll put that down as a note of further discussion.
And it is not included in this budget. Just to be very clear, it was not presented.
I understand.
The other thing that we're also taking a look at is, I mean, jurors are a very, very important part of the judicial process. And I think that it may not necessarily just be a Wayne County issue, this is also a statewide issue. And I think it's important for us to be represented at the state level as well, to have those discussions that it needs to be taken a look at. I don't think Frank Carter, our court administrator, is actually sitting on a committee to address some of the juror compensation issues.
And I think this should be a statewide issue because as much as we've been hearing from various departments, there's only so much resources, that's available at the county. So I just want to have a follow-up conversation with the management and budget to get some of their sense feedback associated with that. Okay, so I will now go to commissioner questions, Commissioner Anderson, and Mr. Moretti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome. Great seeing you all here. I didn't want to certainly say that my ears talking about what we're trying to do with jurors, the pay, as well as the parking. I'll address that with the new jail, CJC, and the court that's going to be there. Because that is really important. I know we've talked many times to make sure that we have free parking for jurors. We need to do all we can to make them feel welcome and appreciated, because I think that's sometimes been lacking. We feel, why should I take a day off work? Lose pay, because unless you work for one of the big three, I think they make up the difference. What your normal pay would be, so you're not losing money in most cases. But it's still a commitment time, just commitment of, driving downtown, finding parking, finding a place to have lunch and everything. So I applaud your efforts. Ongoing issues. Are there any issues that you folks have noticed with the indigent defense? Is it been pretty smooth, the process? I know it's relatively new for all of us, but it's certainly necessary. That's what I'm very concerned about is cases that are determined later on and that come back before the court, come back as a lawsuit against the county. And I think being able to take care of those cases, ensure they're handled the right way, the right representation is there, enough representation. The pay of attorneys certainly is a big factor for the types of cases that there. Has there been any issues that the court's experienced that you're working on to try to iron out this process now of having representation in the court?
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. The court is appreciative of the fact that there is indigent defense or indigent defense. And also it appears by the county's statement, the county executive role, likewise being improved. The court itself has felt the most struggle with the prosecutor's office and their loss of prosecutors. And so we need both sides, and the court is being objective in that type of situation. And sometimes we have a lack of both. But I'm certain that with the funding that the county has provided, and the state has provided both, and understanding both sides, there's a lot coming in, that will be alleviated soon. Look at what we've done, even through this struggle of having their workforce issues affect us. The fees that we're seeing the backlog, addressing the backlog, I think that will be a huge factor in state. We're supportive of both sides of the training that's going on, the funding that's going on, and with that, we just hope for the best.
One last question I have, keep it sort of brief, is the CJC that's being probably not too far down the road. We're going to, I know one of the predecessors mentioned to me and Lynette that there were issues still to be resolved, and likely to be formed to deal with some of those issues and talk to the CEO about those issues. And we're way along, of course, in the construction. And it's probably not something that's going to change in a substantive way. But are those issues being discussed? Certainly. That's,
Yes, I'm
Curious.
court administrator address that, but I do want you all to know that when we do get the keys, when there is substantial compliance with the issues that there are, we definitely want you to join us in another tour of the complex. And Frank has been one of the people who's regularly on tour and building on back, opening the docket, and Judge Penny also has stayed with us on contract finish because he's a point person on doing all of those tours and looking at what is left to ensure the ability to function in that building.
Only
It's on.
So I appreciate the opportunity, Commissioners, to be here. Questions. Frank Carter, Executive Court Administrator. I've been with the court now since June of this year. My experience has been primarily on the west side of the state, but I've definitely always been envious of Wayne County and the Third Circuit as far as their leadership and court management. That said, I want to give credit to Alyssa Shannon, who's our Deputy Court Administrator overseeing the criminal division. She's been instrumental in communications and been working with Judge Penny as it relates to the CJC. As far as issues, anytime you move from one location to the other, you learn just how much stuff you have to move. And with that becomes, how do you operate in the environment? One of the concerns front and center is, of course, security. We talked about that in some brief detail here about court security specific to sheriff deputies. And security in general, security at the door, security in the courtroom. Logistically, there are some operational issues that we have to iron out. We just had an operational walkthrough of the facility with court management members just recently, and took notes of items that we need to be prepared for when and if, well, not when, if, but when we get the keys to move into the facility and to be prepared for that. Some things remain to be seen as far as, you don't know what you don't know at this point. But my involvement with this topic has been pretty positive. I've seen cooperation. Certainly we're having ongoing meetings on a weekly basis on issues that we're discovering. And that process has been promising. Operationally, as I mentioned, some of this may be too far into the trenches of this discussion today, but there's technology that's in the facility that doesn't exist in Frank Murphy. We need training on that. And those are all things that we can do while we prepare for this upcoming move when it is decided. But the biggest topic, as I mentioned, is really the security of the facility. It's a much larger footprint. There's a lot of moving parts within the facility, and certainly the courts are only one entity on that campus. So with that in mind, we're prepared to work with our community leaders and certainly judicial stakeholders on moving forward.
thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Before I go on to Commissioner Marecki, just want to recognize the management and budget CFO John Wallace as relates to some of the questions, some of the items that came up on this discussion. Could you just step up for a moment, sure, please, if you don't mind? Okay, specifically, I want to ask you, as it relates to the matter associated with the complete the matter associated with the jury compensation, as well as parking and additional support associated with other issues associated with lunches. Some of your department has received, I guess, reports and where that stands.
John Wallace, CFO of Wayne County. Through the chair, yes, we have met with Chief Judge in another meeting with the executive.
thank you for that information. Thank you. And so, yes,
On the topic of jury, I just wanted to mention that I am on a jury reform task force with Representative O'Neill's office. And they're in the process of reviewing some of, well, actually, they're drafting proposed bills that will be submitted for the legislature on this topic. And certainly jury compensation is one of those things that are front and center. Not only jury compensation, but the issue of mileage reimbursement. We mentioned as well as trying to compensate jurors for lunches, as well as the whole parking situation is certainly a concern. You know, in Wayne County, especially in our courts here downtown Detroit, we're in a unique circumstance where many other courts in the state of Michigan maybe don't have these problems where you have parking limitations or parking fees. And so, while I appreciate our neighboring counties and their luxuries, we don't have that all. And so there needs to be some consideration for that as legislation is being proposed that will address these issues moving forward. And we've received some good traction and good feedback on this jury reform task force. And I'm hopeful that we'll see some positive results.
thank you for giving us information related to the executive of that task force. So we will, so perhaps my thought, the commission will table any action associated with juror compensation to see what the state does on that part. Parking is something that this commission and parts of the committee, chaired by Commissioner Anderson, with moving into CPC is something that we have some movement on. So thank you on that. And the commissioner, Commissioner Anderson, and Commissioner
I just wanted to apologize for having to leave. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner,
Thank you, Fair Community for just to follow up on the jury task force. When are the recommendations due and when might we be in legislation?
That's a great question, and I don't have the answers that I can provide immediately, but I will follow up with this board and be able to provide you those updates. We are meeting on a fairly regular basis. I know Representative O'Neill's office is pretty ambitious. It's starting off as one bill. It's my understanding I was like 5 companion bills that this impacts because it's dealing with a variety of other issues as well, specific to jury reforms to ensure that we have proper representation of jurors in all the courts throughout the state of Michigan.
Just get out of the legislature, know Rep. O'Neill well, and I can also do that. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Moretti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as far as the jurors, we're talking about compensation. I've been over your concerns. I even sitting on the go to lunch. But I'm taking this out of a memory from a long time ago. I can't remember what the judge did. 2 judges that did a jury. They were going to look at jurors that were showing up. And they had a program in place where there would be some kind of repercussion if jurors didn't show up. I know COVID's all in here too, but is that program still going on and how did it work?
It's not going on at this time. I mean, we basically want to show great appreciation for those willing to come in and serve their community and jurors and show respect for their time and all of that. And there are a lot of issues of people still having fear for their safety and their health coming to public places. And so that's staying in this time. But there was actually one time, and that was because there was a thought that a lot of expense goes out in sending out jury summonses and having such small response. And we wanted to improve that and put the word out that it is a duty that should be respected.
Okay, thank you. No, I don't know if I heard you correctly. Did you say that the state is looking at compensating prosecutors? We haven't heard from the prosecutor yet.
Well, there's some grants that are coming into the prosecutor's office,
Okay.
as well as a large increase by the county executive doing the same thing as was described with the indigent defense in looking at compensation and equalizing compensation throughout the state for attorneys. And although I strongly support that and our court does, it is difficult for employees of the court to see that the attorneys from both sides, indigent defense as well as prosecution, are brought to a level equal to open and close. And yet the rest of our employees, even with your contract increases, are not great, and they're certainly not at the level of
Okay, the clerks, I'm sure, that are mad.
the clerks, but also the employees directly of the court, and for instance, friend of the court.
All right, can you just briefly explain what 141 state is?
Well, the state court administrator's office, the Supreme Court, has directed findings that the largest court and busiest court and most hardworking court in the state, Wayne County, is hugely underfunded by the fact that our county is our funding source and doesn't have the money that, for instance, Oakland and Macomb does to compensate us. And so they should equalize the funding of the courts across the state.
Okay, got it. And then one last question. How are the talks going with the civil campus? You guys involved in, because this was gonna be a 4-year.
So the agreement, the Port County agreement puts some parameters that we define, okay, you know, how we're going to make progress, you know, start with a consulting. You know, we put our teams together, really kind of work to look at some of the plans that were laid out. What has happened, there's been transitions on both the county side and the court side. And so we actually have some meetings scheduled to kind of return to get those discussions moving forward so that we can see, you know, where we're going to go. Understanding that, you know, there's a lot of layers that will go into this, but I think both teams we're working together to make sure that those discussions are.
Was there a timeline of 4 years? Something like 4 years? That building is, right?
There were some timelines, don't quote me, there are some specific timelines that should be met in terms of getting plans and talking through that. There is definitely no defined, I mean, don't get me wrong, please, the court is anxious for the facility. Understanding that we do have the county as our funding source, and we, you know, need to get in a position to be able to work with the funding parameters that are there. So yes, I can't speak to those parameters explicitly at this moment, but I do know there were some timelines here that we definitely.
And as you say, if it takes years or a few years even, we have to look at now. And we have great challenges now because, for instance, the security is a huge issue all over the courts. And so we have historically had security for our courts. We've had a deputy in every court and 2 deputies. One armed in the framework of health justice where the criminal felony cases are. At this time, we don't have it. And so it is very difficult to run a court when there are shortages in the criminal courts, let alone in the civil courts, where also, you know, issues arise of security. Certainly the family division and the domestic violence and the custody issues bring some very large security concerns. And so again, when you're talking about Coleman A. Young Municipal Center and the lack of security there, we have some concerns from the public about opening the courtroom doors to every courtroom. We have, for instance, the self-help center at KMAC that we serve 40 self-represented individuals per day, a total of 4,000, over 4,000 between January and June of this year. And we want the courtroom open to the public. We want to serve better. And yet with security concerns and the fact that the juvenile and family, the whole court has 4 different buildings, it's very difficult and inefficient to run a court that way. And at least temporarily, we need to have a way to have the extra security so we can open those courtroom doors, because it's well and good to say that remote work is good. We do a lot of remote work so that people don't have to drive in and pay in part. But a lot of people want to come in person and they want access to justice and access to their courts. And it's difficult for us to sustain that without the security we need.
Okay, I'm all, thank you. I'm all set.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker for forming, and then Commissioner Jacob.
Thank you so much for appearing today. You just mentioned area of the court. Does that include expansion? Is there a budget or a part of the budget that helps to resources?
Well, actually, there is a backlog on expungements because expungements go to the criminal division. And the criminal division is in general backlog. And so what we are doing right now on expungements is to try to get approval from the state court administrator's office, which we expect to be approved shortly, so that we can hire our visiting judge to handle expungements. We can hire a contract prosecutor to handle expungements, and we can expedite the handling of all those expungements, because we see expungements as a great resource, have the ability of citizens to move forward in their life, and that's important to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sam Bateman, representing the Dearborn in Northern Town Park. Judge, welcome to Dearborn. You touched on the subject that I wanted to talk about, which is security in the court. Wayne County is the largest county in the state. We handle most of the cases, and yet we're lacking security. It's a big problem for Wayne County, and something needs to be done. We don't have to wait for a tragedy to happen in order for us to act. I don't know, how do you feel we can improve security? Obviously, we need more funding, right? But which one of the courts is more vulnerable than the other? You mentioned K-Mac. What about the other courts? Is one better in terms of security than the other?
I would say, generally speaking, we're lacking security at all of our facilities. On a daily basis, we receive an email from a representative from the Sheriff's Department, basically advising us where different deputies have been assigned, where they pull them from one building to the next to ensure that, for example, Frank Murphy, which is our criminal division, has at least 2 deputies in their report room. And what basically that means is that there are locations that are undercover. Penobscot is an example of that, where we have a friendly court personnel, let's not forget them, as well as KMAC, that we've already discussed. So, you know, I don't know that I want to put weight on one building being more safe than the other, but the issue is across the board. And our concern is that this will be magnified with the move to CJC if this isn't addressed soon. And thankfully, on an optimistic note, there's been ongoing discussions, but at the end of the day, we need bodies and we need people in various positions within the Sheriff's Department or some other creative solution to look at options. And as an example of that, I know we've been recently talking about there's some collective bargaining unit limitations here, but we've been talking about, for example, private security that would handle the doors, if you will, at the CJC and or Frank Murphy as an example. But those are things that still have yet to be really ironed out. It may provide some relief, but I don't think it's going to solve the larger problem.
I agree with everything that Ms. Harvester said, and just to give you examples, at Frank Murphy Hall of Justice, some say that although we're underfunded and undersupported, that courts out county, or courts in other counties rather, sometimes don't have 2 deputies for them. But what they don't recognize when they say that, you may hear some people say, oh, in Oakland County, they only have 1 deputy, or they don't always have 2. In all other courts, usually they have replicated documents. So I've worked in other courts, the judges have part civil and part criminal. They may only have 1 deputy, but they're mostly doing the civil. And when they have, for instance, a murder trial, they'll have 6. They won't have 2. So we really have to recognize the fact that the deputy that's working closely with the prisoner is usually unarmed, so that for their safety and the safety of everyone. And then there's another deputy necessary, armed. And so if you only have 1, that person has to be armed. They have to be working right with somebody who is, a prisoner and in a volatile situation. So it's extremely dangerous not to have 2 deputies at Frank Murphy Hall of Justice. And then when you're talking about KMAC, how can you open court doors and have judges there and their entire staff without a deputy. And so we basically have maybe 1 or 2 deputies to a floor. We do not have deputies. And we're trying to answer to the public's desire to have judges open their courtroom doors and be there present. I mean, I do 75% of my work remotely, but I do it from my courtroom and I'm present there for those we serve. But you can't always have that. Some of the judges, literally, there's an issue right now with the family court judge who's having serious threat to her person. You think she wants to come in when there's 2 deputies on the whole floor? She's gonna work remotely until something is resolved and until there's full security in that building. And so we're having a tougher time getting everyone back. But again, the public has a right to have open courtroom doors, to have court houses that are housed, not to have everybody working.
Thank you. Okay, any additional questions? Commissioner Scott?
Thank you. Commissioner Bertha G. Scott, Hamtramck, Highland Park, Detroit. What are some of the things you're doing now to, I know you have a lot of issues. Do you have, any kind of, committees that you're forming to see if you can resolve some of these, issues? Because we are having problems getting more, deputies in. The faster we get them in, the more people are resigning, so we do need to come up with something, if there could be some contracting out, to bring in people to serve you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Scott. As Mr. Carter started to describe, and he can give more detail. Yes, as a Band-Aid type thing, we are looking to have private security that's up to the level of real security for our courthouses. And we are, for the first time, willing to go with that. And maybe even one of the 2 people in the criminal courts and most of 3/4 of the security people at KMAT. If need be, we'd rather have private security on a temporary basis than we would wait until the workforce in the sheriff's department is having some, issues with union negotiations and other things. We don't expect that the issue just by money, we know they got a big budget increase, but it's not going to be resolved immediately, but we need security immediately.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And so, with that, we taking your comments, taking that under consideration, and budget, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future. You definitely stay in touch with us. And so, Jeff, we appreciate all the information that you all have been sharing with us over the years.
Thank you. We appreciate so much support.
Thank you. Reminding the committee relates to a few schedule changes. So we received notice from the clerk, it is posted accordingly, that the full board meeting that was scheduled for the full board meeting that was scheduled for Thursday, September 21st, has been moved to Tuesday, September 19th at 10 a.m. And then there will be a full meeting on Wednesday, September 20th at 10 a.m. There will be a full board meeting on Tuesday, September 26th, at 12:30 for the purpose of adopting this budget. So please notate that and govern yourself accordingly. Also, just a reminder, our next meeting will be held in Northville, and that is Northville and hold on one second. September 6th, Wednesday, September 6th at Northville Township Hall in the Assembly Room, and for 10 a.m. with the Prosecuting Attorney Office, Department of Public Services, with the divisions of parks, engineering, equipment, roads, maintenance, and the environment that will be participating in that as a religious fund, catered by our commissioner, Barry Ryan. Okay, I'm gonna clerk the next item on the agenda.
Item F, discussion and presentation by the Office of Corporation Counsel.
Please, say your name, good afternoon. Thank you. Okay, so moved. We have the recommended budget, for the Corporation Council Department. If you would, you talk to us as it relates to the strengths, weaknesses, associated with, any recommended variances, from, last year to this year.
Sure, I mean, just, I want to begin by saying that
Look closer. You want to take it out?
during this past fiscal year, Corporation Council has continued to provide quality legal service to Lane County elected officials, departments and employees. I'd like to take this opportunity to just highlight some of our overall accomplishments. We have nearly 150 litigation cases this fiscal year. We've conducted over 1,400 mental health civil commitment hearings. We've negotiated and directed over 900 contracts on behalf of the county. We've responded to over 2,400 FOIA requests. And we've provided countless consultation and advice on legal issues throughout the county on a daily basis. Through our work with the Miller Law Firm, this fiscal year, we have also secured a little over $30 million for the county funds to use to remediate the opioid pandemic. Our work, however, is not without its challenges. Like every other department in the county, we have had our staffing shortages and we've hired staff in this past fiscal year, but we've also lost staff. One loss period, and sudden and tragic passing of Assistant Corporation Counsel from Johnson. Despite our challenges, men and women of the Corporation Council have forged on a commitment to Wayne County and providing legal services. The budget that you have covering, Mr. Chair, is a budget that allows us to continue to provide the best possible legal services to the county for this upcoming fiscal year and to lay the foundation for the I think the budget that you have before you has some vacancies that Corporation Council intends to fill in this upcoming fiscal year that will help us with continuing to provide these legal services to the county. We are hopeful with the new GPA contract that was recently ratified by the commission that we are competitive in our salaries and our benefits to be able to hire new attorneys into our office. I am happy to answer any specific questions that any of you may have.
Thank you. Yes, your department probably in front of like more than, both, property tied with our management budget. And so, you, have always been very forthcoming and cooperative with, information in between meetings and whatnot. So I appreciate that. I want to say that for the record. Looking at the budget, we've given the general overview associated with what, the status of the department as well as the forecast of dealing with addressing some of the things but not in your department. Now I'm here, and so I will. I have no additional questions from myself. Like I will ask any committee members if you have any additional questions. Please let me know. Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sam Basil, Representative District 13, City of Bridgewater, and Northern Ireland Park. Thank you still for being here. My opinion is one of the most important departments in the economy because keep everybody safe legally speaking. the still interest, and, you mentioned that the salary is more competitive right now. Are we able to, hire people, doing on the civil law, county office?
Well, we certainly hope so. That is certainly real.
Okay, I also want to highlight that we will be having we will have to the committee, well, no, before I go into that, let me go and close this out, but Ms. Lily, I want to thank you for appearing here today. And, was there additional questions? Right, no additional questions? Any additional questions?
Just glad you're here by yourself.
Thank you, man. Thank you for all the work. All of you. Thank you. Okay, so I want to find the committee members, as well as selected in the schedule change, that on the 14th, we will be having deliberations, on this budget. And then on the 19th, we will then, the committee, ways on, ways for both this, budget out and send it to the committee for consideration. Yeah, that's September. 10 a.m. 10 a.m. 10 a.m. wonderful. And then we got, the 19th for, 12:30. I also want to recognize, Robert Whittigan, the, Deputy Director of Management and Budget as well. And I want to, recognize, the Chief Deputy, Financial Officer. And Brad McIntyre as well, who's been sitting back there, basically, during meetings. And so with that, Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda.
May we have a motion and support to pass item 1 of the day, please?
Okay, well, we'll do that for today, moved and supported. At the- for today. All those in favor, please, say aye. Opposed? And approved. Next on the agenda, Madam.
Item E, there is none listed. New business, there is none listed. Moving to item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I know none. Next item.
Item G, public comments.
At this time, Madam Clerk, I'll ask you, have you unmuted, Zoom? And if you see any hands raised, you recognize the Directors Committee at this time.
There are no hands on Zoom and we have not received any emails.
If anyone present, if you would like to address the committee at this time. Anyone present? Anyone present? Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda.
Item H, adjournment.
Motion is ordered. The move supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.